Hello, Skip.
Hello, Tom. How are you today?
All right, and you?
All right, so we don't have Nick and we don't have Brian, but it looked like we were doing pretty well otherwise.
Was it Nick or Tim?
I think you're right now.
Tim and Brian were the ones, were they?
Hey, Skip.
There?
Yeah, Nick said he'd be here.
Yeah, I'll sign you in. I guess I'm just doing this. Do you want me to put down your address?
No, you don't need their names or addresses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think you need to do that, but thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm forgetting what the email response was. I wrote it
Yeah,
down.
okay.
Didn't
Well,
take with
I
me.
can look it up, but anyway, on the agenda, the one thing I'd like to change is to have your update time ahead of the regional economic development discussion.
Okay.
And to
Yeah.
give you a chance to set the stage,
Sure.
for that, with a longer than usual discussion.
Sure.
And then I wrote down a couple of questions just to organize that discussion. We did promise, in the annual report that we take that on as a project, to come up with a position on, and so some questions I jotted down is what are the regions of interest? When people say regional, what do they mean? Do they mean Melissa's territory, which is 4 counties? Do they mean just the city of Albany and the city of Corvallis, which is what Mark Shepherd might mean? And if you had to pick just one to focus on, how would you prioritize these? This is just to get people thinking concretely about what's being talked about and move it from the realm of generality. And then the other two questions, what are the collaborative, potential gains, from doing that we're not already reaching? And what are the potential, resource efficiencies, if any? So that's
Good. Yep. Yeah, and I'll have something to report
Okay.
on what we're doing regionally as well.
Yeah. So the more you can anticipate those, the better. I would guess we'll run shorter today, but maybe we can spend some time on future agenda items. It won't be quite as good as it is when Brian is here and can sign up to bring in OSU activities, but I know them pretty well. I just can't speak for them.
Right. Just see if I can find it.
All right. On the Eugene Airport thing, it isn't, the position belongs to Elizabeth. I think it doesn't belong to EDAB, but.
It's not as strategic anymore.
Yeah.
Since she's not on the.
But, it could be, we could ask her, are you willing to continue doing that? And if so, would you
come back and
would
give
you
us a
come
report?
and update us once in a while on that sort of thing?
Sure.
Looks like, well, I know, it doesn't just looks like, early invitations to join ICANN have gone out, right, from BIF, so I don't think there's anything more to be said about that. So how are you doing?
Doing great.
Right. Yeah. This is a day we've been looking forward to. Our exchange student who lived with us in 1999 and 2000 is now a married mother of one, and I think doing very well, she and her husband, because they've been on a 2-week driving trip around the U.S., starting in New York City, 2 months rather.
And where was she from?
Ukraine.
Okay.
Uzhhorod, actually, Corvallis' sister city.
Yeah.
So they should be rolling into Corvallis around 6.
Nice.
Yeah. And so they're going to spend almost 2 weeks with us, and we're going to spend 3 days of that in Camp Sherman this week. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great time to be in Oregon.
Yeah.
People keep asking me, what are you doing for the summer? I said, staying home.
Exactly. Yeah. You have any ideas where to go in February? I'm all ears.
Well, in fact, I do. I bought a condominium in Belize.
Oh, wow.
It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
Okay.
On the beach.
Wow.
In San Pedro, or right out of San Pedro. Yeah, Ambergris Key.
How do you get there?
Probably Houston to Belize City, and then you take a puddle jumper or LA, Belize City, puddle jumper.
Oh, okay.
So it's, getting the puddle jumper and all that, and getting the timing right could take us a couple hours.
Oh, okay.
Depends, but I mean, I think we did it in 9.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Not a
Yeah.
transit in Mexico City or something like that.
No, and it's so laid back and beautiful. And
Yeah.
so we're going to be renting the place out starting in August.
Interesting.
We put it out to friends and family.
Yeah.
About, you know, pick a time you want to be there, and we'll reserve those spaces, and then we're going to put it in the rental pool.
Okay.
A rental pool through an on-site manager that manages the.
So Belize is a stable country?
Very stable.
Okay.
Stable.
Like Costa Rica or?
British Commonwealth.
Yeah.
British security.
Okay.
As well as English speaking. Their primary language is English. And so, yeah.
So is there a big disparity? There's the native people who do poorly, and then there are the rich gringos that run the place? Or?
Somewhat. I think there's a lot of middle class
Yeah.
U.S. expats that have moved there.
Okay.
So on the island, I was there 25 years ago, and I think there were about 600 people on the island. The island's 10 miles by a mile wide. There's 30,000 people on the island now.
Island. So this is an island off.
Off of.
Okay. All right.
The mainland, probably more poverty and more crime in the city. So.
Okay.
Island is full of Canadians, UK expats. Hey, how you doing? All right. So,
I got a little bit of a cold hand.
so he's gonna want you to sign in there.
Skip Run, nice to meet you.
Phil Warnock.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a pen.
Right.
Phil, you were from where? Sorry.
Cascades West Council of Governments.
Oh, great, great.
Community
Yeah,
Economic
I
Development
watched
Director there.
I watched that video, you know, that Melissa recommended
Mm-hmm.
to us. So.
So that's where I'm going to be spending time.
February.
Probably March.
Yeah.
We're going to Italy.
Want your pen back, or-
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Or I guess I'll just leave it up there and tell everybody to
Central
go.
one for now.
Yeah. I always lose them anyways.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
Hello.
How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as
How's
well.
your summer going?
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
Kids growing up.
Do you happen to have a
Just been
spare
down
pen?
there.
I was. How do you
I
know?
have one you could use.
I was.
How do you tell?
He had his golf
My
club.
glove is still in my back
Oh, okay, all
pocket.
right.
But,
I'm not a
You
golf
want me to
fan.
go deeper?
I'll just take that
I used to be. Don't play anymore. Well, I'd like to, but I just don't have time to. But I joined the club,
Here, with this.
and I figure over a 3-year period, cost me about $1,000 a round.
That's how little you play.
Yeah.
We can do this one for.
So I said,
for now.
yeah, we'll just pay to play and pay.
Yeah, that makes more sense now. I'm semi-retired. I don't have
Yeah.
those. Now, if the both girls are in school, I have
Responsibility.
Excuse me. What's your name?
Mark Page.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Play Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Nice.
If you're playing that much, you don't want to play above the courses and pay those fees.
Right.
It's much less
Well,
expensive.
I was a member of Spring Hill for many years, and I worked full-time for Air Products and Chemicals. I was on call 24/7, but I didn't have to be there, so I had
There you go.
in the summer, especially.
But it's actually nice to, I spent the last 2.5 years, 3 or 5, raising my girls predominantly. And so now I have too much time. What am I gonna do? I have all this time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find something else to
Hey,
do.
Hey, David, how are you doing?
Good. Skip, how are you?
Excellent.
Mark.
Are
Is
you?
it Mark? It is. Nice job on that report.
Okay.
You did a lot of, the little light reading.
Okay. 6 pages worth.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Good to have you. Sign in there on that sheet right there, please. Yeah.
David Becker, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, the homework.
you're going to come up today
How are you doing,
to the
Skip?
wind board.
Doing great.
Oh,
Do you know
great.
who's in
So
what?
I want to invite you to something for wind. I'll let you know. Hey Seth, could you sign in for that?
Yep.
Good.
Good to see you. Welcome to.
Beth, nice to see you. I don't think we've met.
Hi, I'm Janelle Conmiller. I'm with Oregon State College of Business.
Oh, very nice to meet you.
Nice.
I'm going to ask her to say a few words.
Fantastic. Okay.
And give Mr. comments.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful. A lot of people at the College of Business, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
new faces all the time.
okay, you're a new face?
I've been there about 2 months.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
She's a neighbor to Dan Moyer.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I've been in Corvallis for a couple of years, but moved to
Okay.
And she was over, so College of Business put on a big thing for alumni. And they had the awards ceremony for students.
Yeah, student awards and alumni awards.
And so it was at the, what's the mezzanine place there at the State of Research.
Yeah.
And catered a nice lunch for us. And anyway, that's where we met.
Okay.
And thought she needed to get to know some of these people.
Okay, great.
Hey, Pat.
All right.
It's all about connecting the dots.
Okay.
Yourself?
Good summer?
All right. That looks like Tim.
It is Jim.
It is Tim. All right.
So,
All right.
it was Nick that couldn't be here.
All right.
Tim?
Hello, Jim.
Happy Monday.
I did not hear from Jason.
Okay.
I did hear from everyone else, so I imagine Ann will be here shortly.
Okay, all right. Okay. Still have 30 seconds by my watch. Satellite 6.
Thanks for doing
And Heather did say she'd be here around 3:15.
Okay, great.
We'll let her
Okay,
give an update.
and here's Ann.
I'm the only one who didn't bring his paperwork. I read.
All right.
I read it.
I'll give you cover.
I'm prepared.
I think we have a quorum. Even without Jason, so.
Right.
Let's give Ann a chance to come in.
Did you see that directive that we got from Carla about having a forum?
Yes, yes.
That was news to me.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me, can you sign in to the visitor thing?
All right.
Thank you.
Dr. Burke.
Dr. Weber.
Yeah. Dr. Pete, nice to see you.
Good to see you. You're looking good.
Yeah. All right, well, we will call the meeting of the Corvallis County Economic Development Advisory Board for July 10th, 2017. Order. Looks like we have a quorum here, so it's okay to talk in obedience with the reminder from the city that we are not to meet if we don't have a quorum, but we do.
We can't meet if we don't have a quorum?
That's correct.
That's correct.
So it's not, you just can't take action, it's, you can't meet. That's what we were told. Okay.
Yeah. I guess you could sit and shoot the breeze, but you should not take any minutes or or conduct any business. Anyway, we don't have that problem today, so even if it is July. Let's see, we have a number of visitors, community members here, so are there any community comments before we begin the meeting? Agenda.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Please do.
Speak, okay.
That would be great.
I need to make sure I'm following all government rules here. Motion to speak. I'm with the Oregon State College of Business.
You can sit.
Oh, okay. Again, another rule I don't know about.
Just
Permission to sit. And I am the Director of External Engagement. So that is a new role at the College of Business. And basically, we have a team that's in charge of external development, both with alumni and with corporate contacts. I am one of the main corporate contacts responsible for nurturing some important relationships with community and corporate contacts. And really we want to get, I'm the liaison, I want to get alumni and corporate contacts engaged with the university and the College of Business, whether that be in a mentor capacity, as a speaker, and then all the way on to helping companies talk about developing their workforce, developing their talent pipeline, talking about if there's need for continuing education in a formal capacity or a non-credit capacity, but just rounding out additional education for maybe pockets of their workforce that they want to invest in to develop in terms of talent. And so we are kind of out in the community, talking to important business leaders, making sure that they know that we are ready and willing to engage and to get connected with whomever is interested. So I also brought some important information in terms of collateral, if anyone is interested. But again, we also, oh, you have questions?
What's your
Yes.
name?
My name is Danelle Cronmiller.
Okay.
We also, if you haven't noticed, we have a presence in Portland. So we are really trying to have kind of a satellite location in Portland, and that's because the bulk of our alumni and the big companies are in Portland. And I think in years past, we might have missed that opportunity to engage with the Portland community, but we are there. We've got a space in the WeWork Custom House in the Pearl District. We have employees that are housed there. And they are staffing our dean, Mitzi Montoya, around the area there as well. When she comes up to Portland, which she does quite frequently, as well as I do. So, yeah, we've got a Portland satellite office. We're building out our Corvallis engagement opportunities. So we are also looking for introductions. So if you sit on boards of people that you think would be interested in engaging or have a business problem that they want to solve. We do see a lot of companies that have a business problem. We want to penetrate this different market. We want to launch a product, and they want new eyes, different student groups on that. That can be a formal student project within the company. We had a company with Burgerville. The students did a project at Burgerville, and we invited, of course, the company contacts to come and sit and listen to the presentations. And the woman from Burgerville just sat there and said at the end, "We have never thought about customizing the menu per regional location. We have thought about everything from price to menu offerings, how to design the restaurant differently, She's like, we've talked A to Z. We have never thought in a million years how to customize menu options or selections based on regional location." So it's that kind of aha moment where it can benefit new groups of students to take a look at fresh eyes on solving a business problem. So I do have some materials here. If anyone is interested, I'll just kind of leave them up.
Do you have some cards as well for yourself?
I do have
Okay,
business
good.
cards,
Yeah.
yes. We would love introductions. Maybe you're not the appropriate contact, but maybe you do know your neighbor or something who is. And again, I'm a team of one of three, and who generally have the same business title as myself, and we're out talking to different alumni and companies.
And your group of three do have some assignments of companies.
We do,
Or-
we've taken, kind of the top echelon of companies and tried to divvy those up because they might need more attention. And so I could be the contact for that specific one, or,
Could be something.
yeah, it could be one of my colleagues.
Anywhere in Oregon?
Yes, anywhere in the country, I mean,
Oh.
really, but we're obviously just focused here due to the numbers, the central location of where our alumni are. But, we're definitely in contacts with nationwide, global companies. Any
What
other
if they're
questions?
not alumni, then it doesn't matter?
Oh, it doesn't matter, of course,
Okay.
friends, business friends, are certainly interested in partnering with the university to develop talent pipeline and solve business problems.
Well, to know, I'd be happy to have some of the literature.
Okay,
And,
Yeah, me too.
and also to help you with the contacts, I think I can.
Great.
On
You
your
want me to just
request.
pass this out?
Yeah.
Why don't I just do
Right,
that?
sure.
Okay. And then I don't have as many of those.
All right.
Okay. Okay, great. Different kinds here. And this is just a sampling. If you have something specific in mind, we can go deep with
All
our.
right.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, Danelle, for coming
Sure.
and introducing yourself.
I thought this would be a key place for her to come and.
Yeah.
That connection, and of course, there's others that we talked about when we met. She came to the office and talked for a while, and I'll be connecting with some folks.
And we'll continue with community comments. We have a couple new visitors that have joined the room. If you'd like to make visitor community comments, now is the time, but Pete, welcome. Give your name.
My name and my rank, yeah, Peter
Yeah,
Burke.
that too.
Peter Burke, I'm a SCORE volunteer and have been for a number of years. And SCORE at this time has a dozen or more local members, local meaning Newburgh, McMinnville, Newport, Salem. And most of our clients are in the secondary job market. We talk with restaurateurs, with accountants. We're working more to talk not just to small startups, but also established business people who are struggling. We're always looking for volunteers, hopefully people with lots of industrial experience and good judgment. And we've upped our head count by about a factor of 2 here in the last year. I'm remiss in not bringing handouts, but SCORE National has a very easily accessible website, score.org, and the local chapter is salem.score.org, which is Salem because we cover 7 counties. We're working from a different word from free advice to prepaid advice, to make sure that people realize that most of us have valuable experience that can be helpful. Our flexibility is the code of ethics. We do not exchange money. We do not become financially entangled with our clients. We're good listeners. I have one client tell me, "You're the first person that listened to me. Everybody else tried to tell me what to do." So that's our strength. We're point of contact is quick and easy and mostly useful. A lot of people talk themselves out of going into business, and I feel that's one of our good services. Any questions? Yes.
Do you specialize in anything, or do you?
No, I think we all try to be good at business 101. Like who's making it, who's selling it, who's keeping track of the money. And within the group, we have a diverse range of specialties, and we try to match the client to one of us. The restaurateur guy gets the restaurant business, the software guy gets software questions.
How do you coordinate with like the accelerators, which are kind of doing?
Okay, I've been lazy, so the coordination has not been good. We're as volunteers. A lot of SCORE capability is sort of a compilation of individual capabilities. And if I choose to get up off my butt and come here, well, here's the contact. And so I've become motivated here in the last month for some reason, and I'm going to do walkabout a lot more. But as far as, do we have a program to stay coordinated? No.
So picking up on Tim's question about the accelerators, the work you do sounds somewhat similar to the counseling provided by the Small Business Development Center, so I'm curious if you interact with them, and if you don't, or even if you do, how do you get your referrals, your client referrals?
The client referrals come almost entirely word of mouth, and I know the accelerator for a long time was giving out SCORE contact information, and Chamber of Commerce. It's really interesting. Somebody gets a card, go to SCORE for advice, and do they act on it? About 1 in 100, I would guess.
Mm-hmm.
So staying coordinated, we rely very much on word of mouth.
So Pete, what help can we possibly be to you?
Sending clients our way, offering suggestions to me on how SCORE might improve its service.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Pete.
I guess I would like to see maybe a testimony from somebody.
Oh, yeah. I can do that.
Okay.
Did-
Great.
All right.
So Skip, I was just going to say real quickly, so we refer, as Cascades West Business Lending, we refer a lot of the contacts we make with small businesses looking to access capital. We refer them as they're looking through the process in the early stages before they're really ready to do a loan application. We refer them to SCORE and to the Small Business Development Center. Sometimes there's that trade-off of, do they need more of a business plan before they can even get the credit part figured out? That's just one of the resources that we do make referrals to on a regular basis.
The SBD person in McMinnville told me there's more people that need help than there are people to help them. So we are not competing with SBDC. We're parallel play. And hopefully, I think we're remiss on our staying in touch, but we're on the upward slope at the moment.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Pete. Are there other folks wanting to make community? Councilor Glassmeyer, welcome.
Can you sign in, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm Bill Glassmeyer. I'm the Ward 7 council. Well, I guess I'll just have to wing it. I recently finished reading this book. The book is The Broken Ladder: How Inequality Affects the Way We Think, Live, and Die. It's something I've been thinking about for a long time. I've been aware of this issue. Oh, here it is. I wrote this out, but I didn't have time to print it. So, apologize for reading. I'll make it real brief.
Is it something you could send to us also afterward? Okay.
Yeah, I can do that. The book is an account of the psychological and social effects of economic inequality. It's largely based on academic research, but it's lively. The author talks about his personal experience and recounts various anecdotes. So I'm going to tell you two things that you find out from this book. The first is about social problems like crime and teenage pregnancy and things like that. And I'm going to say this very briefly. If you want, I can expand on it. But for not poor countries, livability depends on economic inequality. It does not depend on wealth. So once you reach a certain level, from then on, it's more livable if it's more equal. It's not more livable if it's wealthier. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I didn't know this, and it's particularly a posit in today's political environment. It's about what Americans want. And again, briefly, very roughly, 90% of Americans would prefer to live in a not too unequal society. Not to be very blunt, in a society more equal than the United States today.
Say that again, Bill, they would like to live in
A more equal
more
society,
equal
a
society.
society
Okay.
that enjoys more equality than we
Okay.
do in our country.
Right.
And it's interesting, as I said, in today's political climate, the 90% was essentially the same across political divisions. It was the same for men and women, the same for rich and poor, it was the same for Republicans and Democrats. Okay, so,
Makes me curious who the other 10% are and why they.
yeah, I'm not, there is a reference in here,
Okay,
you
all right.
can go read it.
Yeah.
It was a psychology paper. Anyway, the reason I'm here telling you this is because I am on the city council, and this is something I've been thinking about for a while. And as part of this, I intend to propose to the city council that they actually consider making some sort of equality an actual formal goal for the city. And the obvious place, I think, to talk about that is here, and in the Economic Development Advisory Board, and your annual report's coming up in a month or two, and so I expect to raise these issues there, and I'm giving you forewarning so you can think about it, and respond.
Questions for, I'm sorry.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, 90% is town council. Do they give you any examples of places they'd rather be?
They actually, the way the experiment was run, they gave them two wealth distributions. One was the United States, the other was Sweden. And people chose, well, you see, it's like, I take all you people and say, you guys are gonna be randomly assigned to be in one of these countries. You're not gonna know what your economic status is gonna be. So now here's the United States, and here's Sweden. I don't think they used the countries, they just said, here's this distribution and that distribution. Which one do you want to be randomly assigned to live in? And people said, the more equal one.
So relatively theoretical.
Well, relatively theoretical, that's right, but,
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
As you read this book and you reflect on Corvallis and Benton County, what are your reflections, right? How does where we live, play into that?
I think we're more unequal probably than average. And so, but as I say, I'm not making a specific, I'm not saying we should become more equal. What I intend to ask the city council to do is have somebody think about equality and whether in fact we should. Because I can certainly see problems with doing this, but I would like at least to think about the problems.
Isn't part of our issue having to do with students that causes the inequality economically? And there's not a lot we can do about that unless we give them free tuition or something, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are things to think about. I'm not coming with a position basis.
Okay.
I'm coming with this issue that I would like to have thought about.
Bill, is there a measure of income inequality that you support and think is the right one? So it could be, top line of your tax return reported income, or it could be all sources of support, including, government support, or maybe it has nothing to do with dollar values. What would be the outcome function that would make you happier if it were to improve?
More wealth in the lowest quintiles. That's the Gini index is probably some measure.
And wealth in the form of annual income or assets or some measure of both?
Probably.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, again, these are issues to be thought about.
Yeah.
I think the Genie is pretty well established around the world.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's a good
Those
one.
are a couple of possibilities that I look at.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm sorry.
It's a
I'm sorry.
library
I'm
book.
saying-
Yeah.
So you can read it for yourself. It's easy to read.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you said Genie?
Yeah, Gini.
Oh, okay.
Is that an income measure, or it's more than that?
I might blend income and,
Yeah.
and assets. I can't
Okay,
remember,
okay,
but
all right.
the Gini index is published for
It's
almost all
well known,
nations.
there's lots of data, yeah.
Yeah, almost all nations. So, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with, I don't know that specific study, but, I mean, I'm pretty familiar over plenty of sociology and economic studies, basically back up whatever that paper said about where people, you can also look at like, there's also indices related to, happiness or other kinds of performance, health, development indices, and they all correlate very well with Gini. So in general, in societies that have a poor Gini distribution, poor meaning more skewed, they tend to perform poorer on other things that you might care about, like infant mortality, literacy, longevity, violent crime. The correlation is very strong, and of course it's not that hard to hypothesize causation from all that as well. So it's pretty well researched social science.
On the other hand, I happen personally to like your idea of focusing where the problem is, and that is the welfare of the lower quintile. So I personally think that's a very good idea.
Well, as I say, I haven't got a position paper, but I just want to let you know so you could be thinking about it.
So one comment is that Sean McGuire, he's the county sustainability coordinator, used to do the happiness, the GPI, I think it was called, the gross, I forget, but based on livability.
Oh,
rather
genuine
than,
progress indicator. Maybe.
Yeah, genuine progress indicator rather than gross national product. And so he might be a good person for you to talk to because literally he's done it for the state, so you don't know him.
Yeah, no, I know, yes, I know Sean.
Have you talked to him about this?
I have not talked to him about this, I've talked to him about this subject. I have not talked to him about this initiative to have the city do something, so.
More questions for Bill? Bill, thank you very much for coming, sharing that. And I'll see you next, July 20th, when we present our already submitted annual report.
Yes, no, I don't expect you to change anything or anything like that, but I just want to let you know this is coming.
That's great. Other community comments?
Bill.
All right, please.
I wanted to, are you coming up?
Yeah, I'll come up and introduce myself, that's why I was
Yeah,
up here.
please,
Okay.
I was gonna introduce you if you
Okay,
did.
you can do that too.
Okay.
And if you can sign in as well.
Okay, I will, thank you.
So Todd is our potential third county representative for this board. So he wanted to come and see what this was all about before he agreed to sign on.
Absolutely. Now, I was gonna introduce myself, my name's Todd Nystrom, and I've lived in South Benton County for 90% of my life. I'm kind of south of here, but we've always supported Corvallis and such, but I actually run Hull Oaks Lumber Company. My grandfather started it in 1937, and we've been running ever since 1937, so we've been a long community member of Benton County anyway, so. And actually, I actually helped my kids. They all went to OSU, all three of them graduated from OSU, and we helped them start businesses. My oldest daughter, we helped her get into the clothes tree. I don't know if I'm second in Madison down there. Yeah, so she runs that. Yeah, so we kind of not modernized it. We like old things. I mean, I can't go to church, so. We like old things, so we kind of to know where you're going. Sometimes you got to know where you've been, so. But anyway, we're doing other things too. My youngest daughter, she actually started a wine business just out of Monroe too. So she bought into a winery. We do 700 cases of wine a year.
Not Sweet Earth, is it?
Sweet Earth, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So. And then my son, he graduated from Oregon State in forestry major, and he actually is helping me run the mill right now. So. And we're actually trying to do some economic development in Monroe. We're kind of doing it on our own. It's all about money, and we're using mine. So, so we're actually we're going to try to put a brewery restaurant in Monroe. We bought 3 lots to kind of get that started, and then we just bought another lot where right next to the dam in Monroe. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Monroe, but there's a dam that's been there since the 40s that used to have an old grain mill right there beside it. Now it's got they call it Hard Times Distillery, and it's just sitting there lying along the road. But we're going to do some stuff next year with that. But after we do this brewery project, we're going to do some, like maybe a farmer's market with some kiosks where other people can sell wine and stuff like that. Just try to get some foot traffic in Monroe so people can walk from place to place without driving through at 90 miles an hour. So. So, but, you know, we're trying to do some economic development down there, so that's just me doing it, you know, I know there's probably help out there, but we're just gonna try to do it on our own, but, you know, it's always good to have other voices, other opinions to try to make you do good, so. Anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself, and, I'm kinda listening to see what you guys are all about and what you're up to.
And about the natural gas,
Oh, yeah, I called Anna here about a few months ago, or 2 or 3 months ago anyway, there's no natural gas line between Junction City and Corvallis.
Basically the airport.
Airport, yeah, so I asked her about if it was possible to use the old railroad right of way, go along there, if the county could grant access for, natural gas right of way, and, cause it's all going down the east side, going down through, Tangent, down to Peoria, running down to Peoria and Harrisburg, that way, goes down to Junction City. But it dead ends at Junction City, it dead ends at Corvallis, so I think it goes out to the airport or something like that, so. So we're trying to fill in the gap between, because talked to several other people, Larry Vanell Farms, he actually wants to put a nut dryer in, because he's done so many hazelnuts, so he likes to dry nuts, and then, you know, I talked to some of the high school, the people there, and they would really like to have it to update their boilers. Their boilers are antique, and the people down at the grade school actually use these big giant propane tanks that kind of are very wet fuel, and they would like to use it too. I mean, there's just a lot of interest in it. So then I presented it to Ann, and she kind of helped get the ball rolling. And so
well, the process there is, I talked with this natural gas. It's an application process, and those that are interested in getting service, which sounds like City of Monroe, Vanell, maybe the school district, could turn in an application. So I think the city administrator in Monroe is going to put that application together and get it to them. We'll see. They say, you know, their ballpark figure I think was $100,000 a mile.
$500,000 a mile.
Yeah. So it was.
But it could be more if it's down, if they have to buy right of ways and stuff like that. It could be a lot more.
And the one that I talked to said that does include it pretty much all in. That's buying right of way and everything. And so if there was some right of way that was donated, then maybe they'd have a lower cost. Anyway, they're going to do that.
and Seth, have you possibly gonna help with that? Have you-
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at financing options as well. We've talked about this, and the process is, once the city puts the application in, then we work backwards essentially. So we get a quote from the natural gas company, and based on what their quote is and what their needs are, we can work backwards and look at other potential infrastructure financing or granting opportunities from the state or otherwise. So waiting to get that formalized application back and quote from the natural gas company, and then we can kind of look at options. So there's always loan money available, but grants are obviously really desirable, but we don't know until we have the number.
It's about 10 miles from the airport to
It's
Monroe?
12, I think it's about 12 miles from the airport to Monroe. It's like, from Junction City, it's like 7.5, 8 miles or something like that. But, and I don't know which way they wanna go, but if, you know, like I told Larry, you know, I'm trying to push this way, because he was wanting his nut dryer, and he's buying these great big propane tanks about the size of this room, and they cost a lot to fill, and it's kind of a wet fuel too, but. And natural gas is one of the few energies that's cheaper now than it was 20 years ago. You can't say that about any other material they use, so.
So it's in Rick's hands, and we're hoping he's doing something.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, I'll follow up with him.
You gotta kind of prod him along, but he's a good guy, he's a good guy.
I'll see what.
But anyway, like I said, again, I wanted to introduce myself, and I hope you guys are all pro-business people, so, or try to start businesses or whatever, so we wanna keep it going, we wanna make Benton County, you know, very successful, and that's my goal anyway. I mean, that's why we're throwing my own money in after it, at least the south area, and even some in Corvallis too, but we wanna try to make it a going concern, you know, we wanna have money problems, having too much money, what to do with it all, rather than never having enough, wanting to try to find it, so. That's always a big problem. So you take that problem?
So Todd, 2 questions. One, did you get a packet for today?
Yes, I do. I got a packet.
So you saw our annual report, which will give you a snapshot of what this has been about and what we propose for the next meeting. And then the other one is, I've been, as I drive through Monroe, obeying the speed limit.
Yeah, they got Junction City Police there now instead of Benton County, which is
I figure
kind of
if
a sad deal, but
I figure if it's like Amity, I better do so. But,
Yeah.
Anyway, but I've always been curious, what do folks in Monroe tend to do? Are there a lot of independent consultants, that work elsewhere?
Well,
or what do they do, and what is the interest of the community in economic
Yeah, most
development?
people work elsewhere. There's very little to do in Monroe. We used to have, we used to have 1980, we had two sawmills right beside each other, I.P. Miller and Whole Oaks, and then they had all kinds of they had gas stations and restaurants and all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
And I guess back in the 40s, it was even more, they had bowling alleys and movie theaters and, but when they built I-5, they kind of, everybody just skirted around Monroe, because 99 used to be the main artery up and down the valley, but,
You've got a lot of businesses around the outskirts.
Right, outskirts, right, absolutely. No, and I was gonna say that, we do have some around the outskirts, but just not right there, there's a lot of farmers that do keep a lot of people busy, but,
Golf course, Benton Lane Winery.
Yeah, Benton Lane Winery, they're a big business, and,
That's a nice one.
yeah, well, on the line between Lane County and Benton County is actually the Gibson Farm, which they do lockmeat and all that other stuff, they're mostly in Lane County, but yeah, there's a lot of going things that could happen in Monroe in the South Benton County, especially like you said in the wine industry. We're kind of got in a little microclimate that just there's nowhere else like it, around, except if you go to France or something. But yeah, so there's a lot of potential there. So
Are there shared ideas about, within the community about where they'd like to see themselves in 20 years?
well, they're working on that plan now. It's their comprehensive plan. They're actually working on that. I don't know if Seth was working on that with them for a little bit, or.
Well, yeah, I mean, they essentially haven't updated their comprehensive plan since the mid-80s, which was an amendment to the 1979 comp plan. So they're in the process, they've reinvigorated their planning commission and are trying to get some community consensus on redoing their comp plan. There's actually some significant work being done on some overlays for the commercial district, as well as overlays for the Longton River, which runs north and south parallel to downtown, to engage with that more. There's a plan that's gone into place to promote and develop bicycle pedestrian access to the commercial district and school district. So and a bunch of applications for housing developments right now. So it's really on the verge of some significant changes at the moment.
They just need to get pushed over the edge, or not the edge, over the top. I should say, we don't want to push nobody off the edge. We want to keep up on them.
Did you in recent years, there was a water system upgrade issue, did that get resolved to take care of, or that's still a pending issue?
It's still a pending issue. They're actually, they have a temporary water source, which is out of the Long Tom.
Yeah.
And they've got some town wells, but there's some, I don't know, they thought it was reverse osmosis problems with it or something. It would cost them more to use that water than it would be to treat the Long Tom water to make it drinkable. But they're actually talking to some farmers about going out in the valley a little bit, in the water table out there in between them. Getting it closer to the Willamette River to get good water, like the farmers, 20 feet deep and 1,000 gallons a minute. But, well, I don't know, some of them say they do, I don't know. Maybe, the well holes are that big, so it's like pop up out of the ground.
Does everybody know about Whole Oaks? I mean, that's such a very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to be steam powered just till a few years ago, and we actually would be steam powered now, but if they had parts on the shelf for us to get parts all the time, we were broke down more when we were working, and it's just, it's just one of those things. We still can be steam, but we choose not to be, just to use it sparingly, so.
You're still doing large dimension though?
Yeah, large and long timbers. We've done some pretty big projects. We did some of the ship decking and keels for the USS Constitution there at Boston Harbor, and that was back in the 90s. And then we've done quite a few since then, just different projects. We did some big windmills in Nebraska that were 80-foot long, round, whatever, to put the sails on, to make the windmills spin. And it's just very unique. And we actually sent one time about 3 years ago, we sent 3 carloads of long dimension, which is 32-foot long dimension, back to Pennsylvania. And the Amish people were gonna have a barn race, they have a mile-long chicken barn they're putting up. So they want all the lumber back there at the same time, so they could all put this mile-long chicken barn up, so.
We had an interesting presentation a couple of months ago from Oregon State Forestry, and they were talking specifically about new technologies.
CLT.
Yeah. Did you get into any of that?
Not so much, we still do the good old stuff, I guess, what you say, the stuff they did back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that stuff, it's good for certain uses, especially if you, like for buildings and such like that, for tall buildings especially. But if you want that, I don't know, old barn look, that's kind of what we, more, we used a lot of timbers for bridges and lots of railroad bridges. Yeah, a couple of years ago also, we had this town, I can't remember, it's up in British Columbia. It had a lightning strike. It was a railroad trestle. Lightning struck it and it burned up, and but that was the town's only tourist attraction. So they all pulled their money together and come down and bought enough timber to replace that whole trestle, and so they could have their tourists come back. So, but it's just interesting. So, lots of interesting stuff. So it's all good. But anyway, just like I said, I wanted to introduce myself, and I wanted to say hi, and now you know a little bit about me anyway. So,
Todd, thank you very much.
No, thank you guys.
Thanks for your efforts, John.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep trying.
All right, continuing with community, this is the best community canvas session we've ever had. So
It is.
Anybody else want to contribute? Okay. All right, I think we can go to the top of the agenda, which is approval of the minutes from June 12th. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
One small correction, I think, or clarification perhaps.
This is correct.
Page 3, engineer forestry improvement, plans and connections to the Phoenix and San Jose airport, I think.
Not Jose.
Okay, yeah.
Any other suggested changes? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Somebody? Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the amended minutes are approved. All right, on to the annual report. Dan?
Heather just stepped up for a moment. I think she's having a cough in the throat. But I wanted to have her,
Okay.
I'd like to let her go ahead and give
Okay.
her report.
Okay, we're going to split the Tom's update into a couple of pieces. So Heather, welcome.
Heather, can you come up
You're on the
and
schedule.
Oh, I understand.
I'm a bit under the weather.
Okay.
I apologize.
Yeah.
So I'm here to do an update on Witten. I think the last time I was here was in February, so a lot has happened since then. So since then we had a series of pub talks, and most notably the Shark Tank was our biggest and most attended. It was at the View. One of the winners, 3D Nano Color, got to present at the WAC in the speed pitch, and that was really cool. And then also we've updated our website. So Kent Walter from NewScale, our president, he actually created a map of traded sector products on our website, or companies. And so if you go to the website, williaminnovators.com, you can actually see an interactive map with various companies on there. And yeah, you'll have to check it out and let us know if we missed anything, because I'm sure there's some out there that we didn't know about. Right now, we're currently working on our summer kind of little break. We don't have pub talks in the summer. And so we do a board retreat. And this year we actually made it into a summit, a leadership summit, so that we can invite our sponsors and invite partners that we partner with throughout the year, and kind of get a lot of feedback and just kind of have them present ideas so that we can be better for our sponsors and participants. And so that will take place in August. And then we actually just secured our date for the Win Expo in November.
It'll be November 16th, Thursday, and it's actually the week of the 13th. That entire week is Global Entrepreneurship Week, so there's already a lot of stuff happening that week. OSU Advantage Accelerator is doing an Iterate workshop on Tuesday. On Wednesday, they're doing something else I can't remember, and then they're thinking about doing a startup showcase that weekend. So it should be a really cool week of that. We have moved from the HP campus to back to Oregon State, just for, there was different things they had going on in space that we had used last year. But with OSU having a ton of entrepreneurship stuff that week, kind of works out better, and we're all together and kind of working through that, so, sorry.
So we're working on this leadership summit, inviting some people, some key people that can be either sponsors, advisors, and so forth, to help us build a better year for Pub Talks, come up with some good ideas for Pub Talks. We're also, because of just some turnover on the board, because our bylaws say, you know, you can only serve so many terms, we're going to be looking for some additional board members to serve on the WIN board. So I thought it'd be good for you all to hear that. And if you have interest, or if you know someone that has interest in being engaged in that, send them my way.
There was a very good conference here. I mean, this is just suggesting a sort of group that WIN could connect with. The American Chemical Society had its Northwest Regional meeting. It travels throughout the Northwest, and there was a several session innovation track that was very good. And it impressed me. We could not have done this 5 or 10 years ago, but to have, you know, a local innovative companies that either are or were startups, and the panel called The Focus of Business, or The Lens of Business, was all Corvallis companies for the region. It was Corvus Automation, it was NewScale, and it was Impria, and it was Valiscore, and it was very impressive. Point being is that the OSU Department of Chemistry and a program called The Lens of the Market would be a good group to involve in things that have to do with startups and entrepreneurship, and I can connect you. So.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
This website is a very cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kent put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
It's really
Would you
impressive.
repeat the name of the website, please?
Willaminnovators.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's prominently linked on Yes Corvallis. Maybe it needs to be even more prominently linked. But.
And make sure you keep it up to date, because I know something in there is, those things change.
I spoke to Kent about that last week. A few people have moved, and so you have to update that information when they move.
But now that you've built that map, you know, function, it sounds like that's expandable and something that people can build on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very nifty.
More questions for Heather and the Willamette Innovators Network? All right, thank you, Heather.
Do you need to sign in?
Okay.
Yes.
Please do sign in, all right? All right, well, we're back to agenda item number 3, and we are going to reverse the order of agenda items 5 and 4. So after we talk about the annual report, to the extent we need to, Tom will give a more extended business activity update, including anticipating the discussion on agenda item number 4, which is regional economic development discussion, and that'll be the main topic for today before we adjourn, whether it takes 10 minutes or, you know, an hour. But anyway, the annual report has gone in. You all have it. It's in the packet, and there will be a presentation of it to the Corvallis City Council work session, which is at 4 o'clock on July 20th. Everybody is invited to that, right?
It's in this room.
And so that's in this room. The report is post-editing, so it is done, so I guess we're not looking for additional feedback, although start thinking about next year. One thing that is in there on page 3 that is asked about is the next year proposed work plan. And if you look at the third paragraph of that, I'll read it to you. It says, an important new effort to be completed within a year will be completion of a study and recommendation regarding regional economic development approaches, starting with our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that's part of the report this time, and a regional opportunities assessment, and continuing with consideration of various models and options ranging from informal collaborations to new solid line reporting arrangements. So that's something that we have signed ourselves up to. That is an issue that's come up, or a request that's come up from Mark Shepard and among others. So that's in the report, and so that's a direction that we'll be looking at. Any comments on the annual report or the meeting that we'll have in a little over a week with the city?
Is there a report scheduled for the commissioners too?
We have asked for time on the agenda.
Okay.
We quarterly, so I'm sure I sent an email to Teresa about getting on the agenda.
Okay.
I will double check on that.
So the past rhythm has been a quarterly meeting with the county board of commissioners, which we've gone to, and then the only formal meeting that we have with the city is this one, once a year.
So why don't you meet with the city more often?
We don't have time.
They don't have time. Okay.
It's a matter of what we're requested to do.
Okay. So the county is much more interested in economic development, obviously.
Yeah.
I'll pass that message along.
Yeah, there you go.
Any other discussion on this point before we move on? All right. So Tom,
yeah,
time for your update.
So looking at some of the numbers in the report, the follow-up visits, expansion plans, basically two of them. I can talk about Western Pulp is expanding at their site at the airport, building a new storage building, and that required us to get permission from the railroad to remove a spur that served that site.
Excuse me, what paper? Do you have a piece of paper? I don't think I got that one.
It's in the packet.
Oh, which one?
It's called Monthly Business Activity and Metrics Report.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sorry. June 30th.
Anyway, there's a main spur, and then there was a spur that just came right into the site. And they've asked to remove that spur so they can expand the building over this space where they have outdoor storage. And so they got approval to do that, and should be working on that in the next month or two. It'll be a two-time building. Not any more employment at this time, but it does make their operation more efficient, because what they do is they store cardboard, recycled cardboard, and if it gets wet, they have to dry it out. So now it's going to be dry. Other expansion, of course, is Core Spirits, and I'm assuming you all saw the news that they had their opening 2 weeks ago.
And they got a lot more people business.
Yeah. So apparently it's doing well, so good to hear that. This Project Pearson is a biotech lead that we got through Business Oregon. We showed them, we presented in our proposal the Sarepta building, because it sounded like something that would be a fit for them. So those things, there was an email that Skip and I shared about having Jill Miles come and talk to you about the recruitment process. And I mentioned that to Jill. She said, "Tom, you know the recruitment process, you can tell." So basically, Jill is the national recruitment specialist, one of two for Business Oregon, and they work leads all over the nation. And that's her primary position. Her and Colin Sears are primary positions. When they get an interest in a company that wants to locate in Oregon or on the West Coast or I-5 corridor or whatever, then they send out an information sheet to all of those who or on our mailing list who may be responding to these proposals. And that's how this proposal came up. I did respond. Now, the one I say I responded to Project Daisy, so someone, a high-tech global company is looking for 750,000 square feet already built. And I sent a smiley face back to Joe, and she said, "What's so funny?" I said, "Well, there's 750,000 square foot building sitting around even in Portland area. That's a lot of space to be sitting around." But that's the kind of requests we get sometimes. Now, this company might end up saying, "Okay, now that we've made that sweep, we know there aren't any existing buildings, then where's some good sites for us to build a building?" We'll hear more on that one later.
What is Project Daisy?
Well, we can't say. We just can say it's a global high-tech. It's a company that you would know. I've been told that.
Okay.
So I can't be told which company it is.
Okay, so you don't even know.
We did Team Oregon Advanced Manufacturing, and I think most of you understand it.
So Tom, sorry, excuse me, to go back to Project Pearson, so you showed them, you gave them information, and they're calling it, we don't know anything more.
I, along probably with another 10 people, I coordinated them information.
Okay.
No, there's not a whole lot of lab hood space like there is at that select building already available. So I think that's an influence. We have the inventory.
Any idea what they do, or is that?
It's just biotech. And they were asking for hood space, lab space, as well as a clean room, which exists at that site. So that's a huge plus.
Was it your sense that all truly crucial requirements were met, or that some crucial requirements are not?
They would like to expand. They would like 100,000 square feet. They would like to be able to expand to another 100,000 square feet. That building has around 90,000 square feet and could probably expand another 90,000 square feet on the site. So not quite what they asked for, but in the ballpark. So we're a team member on Team Oregon Advanced Manufacturing. So this is a team that's put together through Oregon County Development Association, or my peers around the state that want to focus on advanced manufacturing. Our buy-in is $1,500 a year to belong to the team. What that gets us is exposure then to a couple of trade shows. FabTech is one that I went to actually because it was inexpensive to go to in Las Vegas. But they do another big one in Chicago every year that I don't go to, but I'm represented on the team. So we get leads out of that. One thing that we've done is that we've contracted also with a company called ROI, which is a search company, and they provide us with leads and report. And so right now we have had 11 telephone meetings with companies from around the world, and we have 14 in the pipeline that they're still trying to schedule.
That is we being Team Oregon.
Team Oregon. And so I've been on 3 of those calls, 3 of the 11 that we've already done. We kind of bid on which one we think would have the best fit for our area. So we had 2 of those calls in the past couple of weeks. One with a site selection company out of Dallas, and more partners, but they were looking for site information for the Mid-Willamette Valley, and it's basically they're looking for a big bakery operation, to have a site for a bakery operation on the West Coast. So that was one of the calls. It was kind of an introductory call that both of these were, and it's kind of a long timeline, but we have to get those started. The other one was a Ruegg Holding, which is a aerospace company out of Switzerland. And so we got on the call at 8 a.m. our time, and they were about ready to go home. And had a very good in-depth conversation. They really are looking to have a presence on the West Coast. And so we have some team leads following these, and so they'll be tracking, the Business Oregon people will be tracking these. So anyway, that's some of the stuff that I do that I probably never talk about.
A lot.
Hey, Tom, what happens when, I know a couple of years ago, CSC had come to this area and then they evaporated. What happens on after action wise, like when we don't get selected, the lessons learned and that? Can you kind of talk through that process a little bit?
It's usually, we learn that maybe they're looking for something that they're not telling us. One thing about that visit is we showed them what Lynn Benton could do in the way of workforce training and all that. We thought we did a pretty good job at that, but yet we heard back that we could have been more aggressive in giving them information. As it ended up, and Tim's left the room, but the site that they were really looking at was at HP campus. And for various reasons that we can't go into here, that wouldn't have happened anyway. So that's one that you learn too. We don't get as good a feedback as I'd like on some of these. We just never hear. And maybe a year or two later we'll hear something, oh yeah, they landed here. Now we were working with a company, and CH2 Hill was actually the site selector. And it was a company that we thought we had the workforce all figured out here. We had a location figured out, but Georgia said that they were basically going to build them a plant and lease it back to them over 20 years to pay off. We couldn't move quick enough on that. I think that there were other incentives that Georgia offered that Oregon just doesn't have. And so we face that all the time. We get some, we don't get them all.
Did you ask for feedback? Did they give you feedback after?
It just, we're rarely ever able to talk to the customer. Jill will talk to the customer and will give us feedback, and it's whatever they give her. Okay. We can do. Anyway, so then I put in the packet the report from the SBDC. I wanted to go over that a little bit so that we're clear. The SBDC report is basically results from our initial agreement with the SBDC, where we paid them $1,000 a month, and then they provide some added services for Benton County in way of additional advising as well as training and so forth. And so we get a lot of bang for our buck there, and we've seen some great results in that. The report then, which I call the DRE report, is the one from Charlie that talks about what he actually did over the past month and who he met with, events he attended and so forth. And then I thought what was interesting is I wanted him to kind of give me a summary of what are we learning out there when we're meeting with those businesses. And there's not a whole lot of surprise here. We've heard this before. It's something that I think we have to continue to work at addressing. And I appreciate Zan, Commissioner, I cannot say her last name. Ojero. She wrote an email asking questions about this that I responded to this morning. And so I would like to go into that a little bit.
Great.
So she asked this whole statement that Charlie makes here about the attraction of talent, access to space, and the business friendliness piece. You know, those seem to be issues. And what are we doing about that? Well, we have OregonProspector.com is a database that we keep up to date It's a statewide database that Business Oregon now has taken over, and they are running it. But we have subscription rights to get into it and fill in information about properties that are available in Benton County.
What's the name of the site again?
OregonProspector.com. And there's some filters on the front end that you filter to. We have around 70 sites in Benton County that we have on the website, and generally I just go into and filter for Benton County, and they'll all come up, and then I can go in and look and see what meets the needs of the requests that we're getting, if any. So we do have that, and we kind of know what's out there. Yeah, we're going to complete the building lands inventory and all that, but that's going to be more about housing than it is going to be about commercial, industrial. We know what's out there in the way of commercial, industrial, and frankly, we have plenty of ground. What we're lacking is space, and it's just an issue that we're going to have. Now, there is a showing of the 1749 Airport Road building tomorrow. The owners have lowered the minimum price to $1.4 million.
Is that the one Perpetua used to be in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Apparently there's several investors that might be interested in maybe showing up there to look at it.
That's what where the grow is gonna be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That would be a good space to make into flex space. That's really the only thing existing that we have that's industrial. We have commercial, quite a few spaces that are commercial that we could show if it's office space that they're looking for, but the flex space has really been taken out. So that's an issue that it exists here. I think it's an issue that exists throughout Oregon, really, as the economy is heated up, space is getting gobbled up, and frankly, what we're hearing from some of my peers out there is a lot of the space is getting eaten up by the cannabis industry as well.
By the what?
By the cannabis industry.
Cannabis industry.
Mm-hmm.
How about like Benson's down on,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's sitting empty, is that a potential?
That's a commercial space, it's not really industrial. This space right over here, I just listed it on Prospector this past week. Nice 10,000 square feet of office space, could be reconfigured for multiple tenants. But again, it's not industrial, it's not flex.
Can it be changed?
Their offices, they don't have shop space, they don't have the power grid and all to do.
I see.
So in the Sunset Industrial Park, so the Sorrento building is available. OSU bought the NIPRO building. Brian's not here to ask, and they do own it.
I've asked.
Okay, and it's not available. But that would be the only other one that, as far as we know, has space to program in it.
It has some really nice space too for high tech. It's sad.
Okay.
They're storing furniture. So then addressing the ease of doing business is one that you all know very well. I think newer people to the commission or the advisory board probably hadn't heard the stories in the past, but you know, when I first took this job in 2012, Jill, this site national recruitment specialist, is a close friend of mine. I worked with her at the state for 7 years and spent a lot of time together. And she at that time said, "Hey, I'd like to come see what's going on in Corvallis. My kid went to school there, but I've never have been there for work." And I said, "Well, sure, why is that?" And she said, "Well, you know how it was at the department. We'd sit around and talk about a new project that would be a recruitment, and someone would mention Corvallis, and everyone would say, they don't want to do business there." And that was the statewide perception of Corvallis in 2012. I think by mid-2013, we turned that around. because my contacts around the state, my peers, as well as business owners. Another little story is the deputy director of the department at the time, Karen Godden. I saw her at another event, and she said, "Tom, we're so glad we have someone in Corvallis we can talk to now." And so we've come a long way from where we were in 2012, but the perception is still there that we aren't a good place to do business internally. Businesses in Corvallis still think that. Amy, I think some of you remember Amy going out and talking to businesses, and she would get that, "Oh, I can't do that in Corvallis, they won't let me." And she would dig a little deep and she'd find out, well, yeah, 10 years ago, they told me no. And didn't recognize that there has been some change and it's still being addressed. And so we are still working to overcome that. And I will say that we've had Paul Bellotta come in and talk to you about it. There are some things in place that would still make it difficult, and that would be the development code, which is about this thick in Corvallis and about this thick in Albany. So yeah, it's just there's a whole lot of complexity to the development code that Paul is going to address, and it's going to take time to address. I think we're already seeing some success in doing things differently as well, and I'll point to Four Spirits. He didn't want to develop in Corvallis because of what he'd heard about it, and Amy and I convinced him to give us a chance. And he then talked to the folks at Block 15, and he saw that they were doing expansion, and they were going to get it done. It was going to work. And it was a new concept to go in an industrial park and have a tasting room. And that was probably one of the biggest points to get our staff passed. It was ancillary use. It was not the primary reason they were there was to do a production and distribution, and this is ancillary. But once Block 15 did it, and they saw how easy that was to happen, then they're more inclined to see the vision of doing that. So we had pre-development meetings with Dawson, several, and city staff worked through the process, and could have gone a little bit smoother, maybe. I think he probably has some fits and starts himself in his construction, but overall it worked. And we have examples of that I can't go into because people don't want us to talk about it, where we carry people through that pre-development process and we're moving them to development. So once you start developing some stories like that you can tell other prospective developers, then I think this whole perception really goes away. That's what I'm looking at. It's a long-term process.
So you'll hear, I can't remember who told me, but I believe it, that if you go to Albany, it's a planning, you're going to do a project, they assign somebody who is tasked, with making the client successful. And so the question is, do we have that same function here in a different way or the same way? Do we need it?
We do have. We have a project development person that from the pre-development discussion all the way to the end of the project stays with the project to make sure that there aren't any snags. Now, snags get caused on both sides. And one of the biggest things that we found by starting this process is just communicating. If you've ever talked to a planner or an engineer and you don't know anything about planning and engineering, probably you have to be able to speak the language and interpret. And that's been my job in this role, has been interpretation. When Dawson says he wants to have his event space, I said, no, Dawson, that's not an event space, that's a barrel room, where you're going to throw your barrels most of the time, and then when you have events, you're going to crank it out and have an event. And that's because the event space doesn't happen in industrial parks. That's not good planning. Now, I think we're trying to get the county more comfortable with that idea as well for the development that Two Towns wants to have out of the airport industrial park, and that's county zoning. I think we can get there, but it takes communication.
So the ombudsman function, if we can call it that, is really you. It's the EO. So if the person that wants to install, a new bank of dryers at a laundromat would get that from you, and they might still be frustrated.
That's true, because that's retail, commercial, they don't know about it. Now, if they were to go to the SBDC, they would hear about me, and then I could help them. We don't really we don't hear about those commercial challenges as much because it's pretty cut and dry.
My guess is that that's where, there's more commercial businesses than there are industrial, and so that's where the bad vibes and stories are coming from, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and there's, the additional complication is that a lot of the smaller businesses and the ones that we say we want to encourage and all of that, they find the land development code incredibly opaque, and it is. And I'm glad to hear that you say, at least at the staff level, they're kind of realizing that maybe that we shot ourselves in the foot here. But I'm uncertain as to whether the other players, the planning commission and the council, have an appetite for loosening up the reins that they layered on over 20 years.
I really think with Paul being community development director, he has a way of making that happen, because he can lay out a good common sense story about why this is hurting and not helping. And part of it is just clearing up inconsistencies where they didn't know how to interpret it because there's been so many changes, so many iterations of changes over the years, rather than doing a wholesale change, you put a Band-Aid over it. For this particular situation, they're right into the code. And so it's tough to navigate. And those are the sections he wants to basically start over with.
And Paul knows that he has an advocate on the council, pro-business development. So he's fully aware of that fact. It's just, the wheels of change turn very slowly, and what I found that the city is not so willing to accept change. It's a slow process, I'm finding, and it's very frustrating.
So, go ahead.
So, I've always heard that it's easier to work with the county than the city, and is that true, or is that?
Well, we've had issues that have come up. We were able to work through them. And again, a lot of times it's just communicating with the developer to get them to understand why this needs to be done. Sometimes there's good reasons that a lot of the code is there, and then understanding, well, if I tweak this, then I don't have to jump through that hoop. So it's just kind of looking at a big picture of the project and saying, how do we get to yes? And that's where we, in these pre-development meetings, that's the objective is, okay, let's move this project to yes and address issues that may be red flags in the future trying to develop it. And it may be changing the course of direction a little bit of the company in the development itself. Fire suppression is a big one. Do I sprinkle, do I not sprinkle? What's the square footage I have to have? What kind of walls do I have to have? And so forth. And sometimes they come in thinking, well, no, I don't want to have the expense of sprinkling. And then once they see the advantages of sprinkling and what it's going to do with insurance rates and all that, they see, yeah, it's better to invest in that.
I've got a sprinkling story for you.
Oh.
I have a warehouse, and 4,200 square feet. I wanted to put in 3,000 feet of what I thought was mezzanine space, and what the city interpreted as a second floor. And they wanted, so I had to go through the engineering to get to the point, so that's $3,000 or $4,000 worth of engineering. And then they wanted the sprinklers. So that's 50 grand to put the sprinkler in, just dig up the street, tap into the main, so no, I'm not gonna do it. But
so you
there you go.
didn't build out.
Didn't build out. The city doesn't get the revenue from additional value, that I don't get the additional space that I need to run my business, I can't find equivalent space around. It's, you know, those are the little things that contribute to the reputation that we have of being difficult. Now, if you're a big business and you have all of the funds in the world and you're a chain or you're a large corporate enterprise from the outside coming in, you can deal with the system. No problem.
I will say,
those are the kinds of businesses we continue to beat our breast about, saying we don't really want that. That's not the character we want to engender in our city, and yet those are the people who can play the game.
I will say on the fire code issue, that's a state fire code. And so they're kind of in a box on what they can and can't allow for construction.
So,
Can I make a quick comment?
Please.
I'm gonna put on my hat as a new planning commissioner for the city of Corvallis for a minute.
Okay.
There was discussion in our
Excuse me,
first
what's your name? Can I write down your name?
Seth Sherry.
Seth Sherry.
There was discussion very relevant to this last week in my first meeting there, which is I suggested we have a liaison or some more interaction with this committee, with the Planning Commission, particularly based on the fact that the urbanization study, which was completed in 2016, lays the foundation for the city to look at rezoning opportunities and some code updates for the city moving forward. It's the beginning of a long process, but I think we should start this conversation early and more often, and I think what would be particularly productive is if this council could provide some tangible opportunities to update specific zones to promote economic development in the city, because I think if it falls fully on the shoulders of the Planning Commission alone and staff, that there'll be some big missed opportunities. So I think just moving forward, that'd be a really good thing to keep in mind. We'll talk more often, but thinking about specific recommendations to both code and zoning, that would be useful to incorporate along with the community input as we move forward.
So let me speak to that, if I may.
Yeah, please.
So I think that's a great idea, and it's pertinent to the future development of the city. And how it relates to council right now is you're probably aware that we've been beating the drum to set priorities for council. And that kind of conversation would be very helpful at these work sessions where we're beginning to, with this upcoming council session, begin to prioritize what are the true priorities for the council and for the city of Corvallis. Those types of conversations, I would highly recommend voices be there to express what they view, like this board views, as crucial elements of propelling the city of Corvallis forward in terms of development and how we frame that conversation. You know, I only say that because I got in a little trouble because, you know, I voted no on the budget because I felt like how could the city pass a budget without having any priorities already stipulated. So that kind of started the ball rolling, so now I'll leave it at that.
Well, we do mention this issue in the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and so when we come to the meeting next week, we can perhaps be a little farther along, you know, with respect to possible recommendations related to zoning.
So
I have one suggestion. It's a process question, suggestion more than a specific kind of question. And I thank you for your service on the Planning Commission. I did that for 9 years, and I always said that I would have gotten less time for robbing a convenience store. But I really did enjoy it, and I enjoyed the process, and I enjoyed the group of people I was with, and I thought it was a good thing to be part of. During that experience and prior to that, I've gone through 2 cycles of land development code updates, and the process suggestion that I would make is that you have some sort of philosophical foundation as to how decisions get made in the community. And what I observed through those 2 processes was that you know, we have a lot of people who are very involved in this community. They want to be involved in it, and most of them think they're smarter than the average bear. And they come to all of these committees and these subcommittees, and they want to sit there and write the code. And they do it. And they come through numerous iterations about, well, let's do this and this. And they're wordsmithing the whole time. And I think we're missing the boat in not employing them to make up, what are the objectives here as a community? What do we want this to look like? And then rely on what has been a very good professional staff to actually do the work and see how it fits in with all of the other components that it has to, as opposed to, ramrodding through, whoever the strong personality's current brainstorm is. Anyway, that's just a philosophical approach, and I wish we would go that direction.
What about the 2040? Is that not part of the 2040 planning that you, the city, has done, or?
Well, the Imagine Corvallis 2040 plan, the latest is that invitations, I believe, are going out to people to serve on the ICANN committee. So the city staff are not going to take what they have and say, okay, here are our marching orders. It's going to be more of a community participative process. So something like this may or may not fall out of the plan and is it plan and sustain? Anyway, action area. So that's not a guarantee that the IC 2040 is a project plan. It's more of a participative exercise in the citizens realizing the vision that they created for the city. But that's there. It's going to show up. I'm pretty confident.
So the other thing I just wanted to point out in Charlie's report is the idea of having a strategy to consider developing a regional summit for the beverage cluster. I think he's seeing a lot of interaction in that industry, collaboration in the industry, across beverages. We've got Four Spirits partnering with Rupeg Coffee to make a whiskey blended, whiskey tasting coffee extract, something like that. And so, are there other opportunities that we're missing in that cluster?
Well, if you ask them, it's food and beverage, but it's also events and entertainment and all kinds of neat visions that they have.
So we're going to try to pull that together. I think I will say that Melissa also apologized for not being able to be here today. She had some notes for her. I came in here. But she wants to help. She wants to assist with that. Here we are. Oh, yeah, her and Charlie are doing joint visits, and sometimes Seth, I think, joins. They are working with a company. We tried to get some financing for an expansion. I don't want to say the name of the company, but anyway, there's some activity going on there. So it's kind of nice having her on board. I think she's really engaged in getting to know the businesses as well as getting them to know what resources are out there for them.
Tom, it's Charlie's report. So is this just the business he did for that $1,000 a month, or is this?
The long report is that. So the one that says America's SPDC wording, that's the contract that's on the website. The one on the next page is basically his work specifically. So the work from the SPDC is a lot of people that are involved in doing that.
Okay.
Are there other questions for Tom? Because I am going to ask Tom to talk a little bit about regional economic development. So I'm kind of setting the stage, for our discussion. So it would probably help to know what is already going on in terms of, formal and informal collaborations among economic development related entities in this region. Maybe the 4 counties that Melissa serves might be the bigger envelope, or maybe it's bigger than that.
As a result of our discussion at the last EDAB meeting, I thought, well, it's time to call a meeting, because we do collaborate. So this time, we included representatives from Sweet Home, Lebanon, the COG, Jorge with the City of Albany, John Pascal with Amadec, Melissa was there with Business for Oregon, and of course my office and Charlie we ate lunch in this room at Subways and talked about what's going on around the region. Lebanon, Sweet Home, we've got some pretty exciting things going. I think one thing that I don't see happening anywhere but here is the business retention expansion work. I mean, there's point people to help development happen, but the actual going out and meeting with businesses, building relationships, removing barriers, helping them with resources, this is the only game in town. No one else is doing it.
Namely what Charlie's doing, and he does it for all of Benton County, or
All of
he
Benton
has
County.
visits that are outside, obviously, of the city limits of Corvallis.
He actually even does some in Eastgate, that's Corvallis. Yeah, it's, if I were to look in my crystal ball and see what is lacking in the region, that's the piece. I think that there could be more of that happening in Lynn County, and, you know, at least Albany, Lebanon, Sweet Home. That, I think that's where I could see those entities pooling resources to hire more Charlie, or more of that talent anyway, to do that kind of work.
So does the economic development groups, you know, Amadec and City of Albany, do they agree that that's something they'd like to do?
We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah,
So
okay.
our next meeting is September.
I know, 20th, August 20th, actually, with, what would the last be in Lebanon?
No.
Oh.
The meeting of the president.
September 5th or 7th or something like that.
Yeah. Maybe the second week of September, anyway, when all the entities are gonna get together for that discussion. Now, we're getting together in August for our next, July 20th,
For our regional?
yeah.
The Economic Development District?
The practitioners.
Yeah.
We're getting together, yeah.
Yeah, the 20th.
In Lebanon.
Yeah, it's the 20th.
July 20th.
So I think, Skip, to your point, is that there's kind of multiple layers of those conversations going on. There's that practitioners level, the people that are on the ground already doing some sort of economic development, getting together and already doing the seeds of what that bigger conversation is. Within that bigger conversation that Tom's referring to is the elected officials, the city administrators that are talking about, is there an appetite for doing a bigger level coordinated effort to do the business retention and expansion type of outreach and other aspects of economic development that might be leveraged as regional rather than as local.
In that meeting, September 6th at 9 noon at LBC.
So Greg Denny's gonna be involved in that
Yes.
discussion as well.
Okay, so I think when asked about what's happening, you know, jointly among economic development, I believe you mentioned entities that are all either in Benton County or Lynn County. Is there anything to mention with Lincoln County or Lynn County? And maybe you could weave in this workforce investment board weird, you know, when we're involved in. I mean, I'm just trying to understand the landscape.
Okay.
Before we get
Now, from a Oregon Economic Development Association level, I have peers in Lane County and Lincoln County that we talk. We don't have meetings together, especially other than when we're at an OEDA conference or something like that. I will say that with the work that Caroline Cummings is doing with RAIN, that those areas are being included, and she's found great success in the city of Florence and in Lincoln County, and getting some meetups going in the whole RAIN library services in those areas. And now she's focusing on East Lynn County, so that work is being done, and I'm on the periphery of that, but I'm
Okay.
certainly not.
Okay.
So Fred and I met with Doug Hunt, who's a commissioner in Lincoln County, and he's very interested in some sort of regional collaborative. And he thinks that the other commissioners would be too. But there is a group there, what's the name of the group?
Economic Development Alliance.
Yes,
of Lincoln
and
County.
he doesn't know what their doings might be, so it's, the door is open.
Okay. And Tom, what about should this workforce investment board that I guess manages a pool of federal funds, should that be a factor in this conversation or not really?
The WIP?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, they've got a healthcare sector, they've got advanced manufacturing, and now a maritime sector. So if there were ways to integrate, but it's mostly people who aren't going to four-year colleges. So
It's still workforce, and
yeah.
it's certainly, I think, my engagement on the WIB allows me to bring them to the table when we have workforce discussions. It's not especially they need to be part of it, but they're just another resource out there, like small business development center is a resource, business origins financing programs are a resource, and so forth.
All right, any questions for Tom before we move into a discussion about, kind of maybe our first discussion about how we'll implement this plan, or to develop a plan for recommendation for regional economic development? And again, to remind people, this came about because, Amy Joran moving on, and then, was it Kathy Porsche from Albany? Kate Porsche from Albany moving on. I think it could be between Mark Shepard and his counterpart at the city of Albany. He said, given that we have these, key positions that have opened up and then are being staffed with contractors, in the case of Benton County, 3 people providing functions that all used to be centralized under Amy, that this was a good time to look, before making, permanent hire commitments, to replace those people, to ask the question, should it be organized differently? So I think that's kind of the backdrop for this.
Yeah.
That goes beyond before that. I guess 10 years ago, this was a discussion. Greg Heyman was involved. Ed Ray's been wanting this since he got here. So this is not a new concept.
Okay. Thank you, Dan, for reminding me of that. So what I thought we would do today is discuss for the time remaining, 4 different questions and get input from the EDAP. And those are, what are the regions of interest? So it could be different people have different, so it could be somebody's thinking, well, it's the city of Albany and the city of Corvallis. Someone say, no, it's Benton and Lincoln County. Someone else might say, no, it's the 4-county area, the same one that Melissa serves. So what are the regions? Or maybe there's one that jumps out, of interest, and that could become important, if you're trying to do something, a solid line organization, you can't have it every way. And then if there's more than one, what are the priority of serving those regions? Which ones should be addressed first? What are the collaborative potential gains, beyond what's currently being achieved, that might require some organizational energy? And then what are the potential resource, efficiencies, which is the other issue that comes up. Maybe there's a way to share resources or do things together rather than everybody having their own, and that costs more. So those are the 4 questions. What are the regions of interest? What is the priority order of those regions? What are the potential gains from more formal collaboration? And what are the potential resource efficiencies? So advisory board members, your input, please.
It seems like what region you have depends on what problem you're trying to solve, right? I think last month we were talking about people in and out of Corvallis, and you can kind of draw a 25-mile area, which would include Albany and Philomath and probably Monroe, but wouldn't go beyond that, right? If you're talking about a beverage sector, wine, that's all of a sudden that's the entire Willamette Valley, right? So it seems like which problem are you trying to help with, which economic development would dictate which region makes the most sense.
Great. Keep it coming, folks. These will appear in the minutes. And this is just to get us started.
Anybody?
No, he said board members only.
That's liaisons out?
Yeah, that's liaisons.
I did not exclude others, but I did.
So I'll jump in here again, just from a standpoint of the complexity of what is faced right now for business, they don't know where to go. And to have a more simplified process, the regional approach is, and I'm, again, biased towards the educational side. It's difficult to reach out and touch every acronym that is out there with every entity, not knowing what they do at the state level down to the local area. And I watched Amy and Kate, two quality people, do a great job. You know, and if you can find two people like that, I think that potentially, but there's a learning curve to that too.
I do want to address that point.
Yeah.
What, probably the biggest part of my role is to be that resource, because I know where to tell you to go.
Right.
And so if I can just get people to come to me with the questions, then I can point them in the right direction depending on what their need is. And that's what we've tried to do here that wasn't being done before. So a lot of that work that Amy was doing was because Amy would say, hey, I had this meeting today, what should I tell them? And I mean, it's experience. I've been doing this for a long time, and I do know where the resources are to help people get there. Could we do it on a larger regional level? Probably. Because those resources are pretty much the same everywhere.
And I don't think it's on that end. On the end is from the user standpoint.
Right.
It's trying to figure out
getting the user connected.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Pentagon. It's a puzzle palace. You know, it's you know, you got to know, and that then we're relying on the user to figure it out, that they would have the experience of where to look, you know, where to do this. And you, like you said, Ann, you got both college presidents. I think there's an interest in the education system about the economic development of the counties we serve, the community we serve, and you know, it would be nice to try a coalition approach and you know, more unified approach, I guess. That could all disintegrate, right, when it gets down to dollars and cents, just like it does with my family, but it's, I think it's worth a try. And awkward silence sets in now.
I can feel it. I'm keeping quiet. Aren't we supposed to keep quiet?
No, not at all, not at all. Anybody can contribute. Again, we're just getting ideas, you know, out there on the table that, you know, will be organized into a, you know, a more formal study that will do. One thing I'm curious about is, since Ed Ray, I am told, has advocated this, it would be interesting to find out from Ed or the Department of Agricultural Economics or wherever that is at OSU to hear more about that idea and their experience, or Ed's experience. I mean, if we should be so lucky as to get Ed, it would be very interesting.
He said he had, you know, 3 different people in mind that one of them would probably be a liaison or an advisor or you know, some sort of connection for us if we're interested.
Okay.
It's Ron Adams, can't remember the other 2 I just.
Who
maybe Cynthia's.
Well, Ron Adams, you know, recently retired provost. Cynthia Sager is vice president of research. Okay, that Ed would refer us to talk about regional economic development. Okay.
And Ron is doing special projects for the president right now.
Right.
So.
I can certainly.
Okay.
Just one additional comment, just maybe it's just because of my own background and it's just forming more committees and more bureaucracy and tying things together and, you know, I don't have a lot of facts because I'm not involved with, you know, all these different groups, but that was sort of in some cases, my initial reaction versus having someone focused on this community, helping that out, which is how I perceived what Amy was doing. And yeah, maybe there's a chance to coordinate with Albany, but, you know, would you want her coordinating with, you know, dozens of other, you know, groups? I'm not sure that serves much purpose other than making more meetings and tying people together. Opinion, editorial opinion.
Yep. No, that's fair game. Maybe the positive side of that question is what are some opportunities out there that aren't being served? So we've heard one example maybe in the room, which is that something could perhaps be done with the business retention and expansion function. You know, the other half of Charlie's time maybe could be spent doing this in Lynn County. That wouldn't necessarily require an organizational change, but it would be that function in the same person benefiting more than Benton County on it. Is that, I mean, that would just be an example of the potential, you know, collaborative upside.
I share a lot of Tim's concerns about layering in one more group. The one opportunity I can see relative to resources is that it doesn't seem like any of these have the resources to do anything very large. And if there are resources that a collaboration could then become tap into, then maybe that would be it. But I think we have to have a vision for the region, whether it's, you know, the Research Triangle thing or whether it's one big focus of energy saying, okay, this is going to spur other things and let's concentrate our efforts. Then maybe we have those kinds of conversations.
Okay, good comment.
I do want to ask a little bit more about the idea or the perception that there's all these entities out there that are doing economic development. I don't agree, because they all do different things, and they aren't made to do the same things. Take, for example, the Chamber of Commerce in Corvallis. You could say what they do is economic development, but it's a type of economic development that is business networking, business advocacy. They were not successful when they ran economic development in getting inside City Hall and advocating for business development. They provide a great function for the businesses in the community, though. They're just a different function. Then you take Downtown Corvallis Association, their focus is on downtown, and it's about implementing the Main Street program, the National Main Street program. And that's a little bit different from the Chamber, it's a little bit different from my office. Now, do we collaborate? Do we cooperate? Sure. And then you have Visit Corvallis, which is a tourism engine, and it has nothing to do really with developing businesses. It has to do with putting heads in beds and you know, promoting the area. So while some people might point to these and say, well, they're doing economic development. Well, yeah, you might call it economic development, but it's a different flavor. And I don't see how all of that could be housed under one roof and be any more efficient than we are right now.
Do you have a working definition of that term, economic development?
I do, but and I think this body does in our economic development strategy.
It's traded sector creation and retention.
That is what we say it is, yes. But others will say other things.
I don't think there was any intention of bringing in the Chamber and SEBA and DCA. I think it's a regional effort to bring in the folks who actually do economic development and pooling the dollars from the different cities and counties who are doing it so that the monies can be used for the greater good. For example, if it was housed at Council of Governments, they have a GPS person. They're looking at a grant writer. They could. I'm on the Council of Governments board, and I see these smaller communities just unable to do anything, and so it would offer them an opportunity to grow and to help their communities, and so a bit of this is altruistic. But also, if there's like Sweet Home, there are 400 acres owned by Lynn County in the middle of Sweet Home. It's ready for development. If there was some sort of collaborative that could help with that, then there's a lot of potential there for that town. I don't know, Phil, you've thought about this a lot. What do you, how do you see this?
I think that there's great points being made across the board about that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but that there is a lot of room and a lot of opportunity to better leverage the resources that already exist. I guess, in my mind, I think it's maybe being seen or heard a little bit as a one or the other type of a proposition. I think what I'm seeing, hearing, is a how do we enhance what we already have kind of proposition. I think that as we've heard about what's going on in Monroe and saying, well, what does Monroe's further development look like as far as it is an impact on Harrisburg and on South Bend County and on Corvallis and on potential airport property. I mean, so that this is a travel shed and an economic ecosystem that is not defined by the city or county boundaries. And that as we look at opportunities to further invest and enhance the SBC, the coordination between the beds and heads supporting the restaurants and businesses and capturing those tourist dollars downtown and showcasing what our community is for locating or expanding a business, I think that those are the types of things that are an open, ripe field for us to do something more, bigger, better. And I think that maybe I've expressed it here before, I've expressed it in other meetings, is that when we compare with some of our other neighboring regions, they have that structure of a specialist and a part of a larger regional vision. And I think that we're seeing when those business Oregon leads come through and some of the locations that are successful in landing them in Medford and Roseburg and Central Oregon and Salem, they are playing from the same playbook, and there is a bit of altruism there, but we're trying to look out for our absolute number one, but I'd rather land something across the river in Corvallis versus Lynn County, or in Lynn County versus Corvallis, if it means it lands in the region rather than going to somebody else's region. I think there's still a leveraged benefit to all of our businesses and our economic development, and supports further cluster development like the craft beverage industry and foods. I think the hazelnuts was an example that we talked quite a bit about. That's a very regional thing that we could be talking about that could benefit expansion of existing businesses and practices and local support.
But it gets back maybe to Tim's initial comment that how you look at the region depends on what problem you're trying to solve. So would it be useful, to list, functions, of economic development and look at those with an eye towards how they're best organized. So business retention and expansion, we've talked about, recruiting, Team Oregon, we've talked about. Then there's, entrepreneurial development of new businesses, and then there could be, maybe somewhat distinct from business retention and expansion, cluster advancement, in particular areas.
And you've also hit on workforce today as well, which feeds all of those.
So there could be maybe the way to think about this problem, as a list of categories of activity or objectives.
How has rain benefited the region? That's been very successful, and that's kind of a regional economic development.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Rain.
How has rain benefited?
Pardon me?
How has rain benefited the region?
I mean, that's better together than apart, right?
I'm gonna get some water on that note.
So I think, so rain, of course, is, for the 4-county region, and it's part of the Governor's Regional Solutions Office. And they benefited the region, by focusing on entrepreneurship, which I think they've done pretty well. And that's in, a different place, depending on what community you're part of, but an outgrowth of that is the W-2 fund, which wouldn't have been possible without Rain staff helping to pull it together. So we now actually have our own year-round, angel fund And then, of course, there's programming, that they put on in places like Lawrence and Newport, which are newer at this game, and so that gets very focused on early stage, pre-company entrepreneurship. And that was its intention. So that would be an example, obviously, of the new business, startup.
So Rain is one of our partners that we collaborate with quite a bit.
Transportation infrastructure would be another one where Lane is an obvious important,
The
conversation
airport
partner.
and
More thoughts. We don't have to solve the problem today, but I did want to get, this has been helpful.
I would just make a quick comment. Tim, I spend my life, a lot of my job life,
Yep.
working with various organizations who are involved in economic development or entities around the four-county region, in fact. And I think what's really great about this discussion is, I hope there's not a misconception that it would replace anybody's on the boots efforts or talent, because that would be a big mistake, in my opinion. But I think to the point is the wheel doesn't have to get reinvented in this group. We have nearly every region in the state that has a population center, has an economic development corporation, who works at a regional level, who works directly with contacts on the ground, such as Tom, who has a great understanding of what's going on, what lands are available in their specific area. But what we lack is someone who can do that across the region. And we know that when businesses are interested in it's not usually a town, it's what that region has to offer them in available lands to build on, schools, right? Other services, amenities that their employees would be interested in. So I just think it's really great there's some examples very close, right to the north and to the east of us, that this committee could look at to think about what this would look like and what kind of support you'd want to lend to it. And those almost always reflect public and private partnerships that support those.
They absolutely do.
Yeah, and they have to, right? I mean, that's what a business support corporation should be doing. So it's not that anything has to be reinvented here by any means, but
So
I think in the context of those groups, SEDCOR
But you gotta come up with the money, and I don't actually sense that we have that coming from private sources here. That might be a bit of a heavy, a heavy lift. So I'd be very interested in those examples, Seth, and also, who funded them and why, from the private side.
If that's a conversation you want to have, I'm sure Tom can do that, or I could support
It's
him
part of
talking
understanding
about
the
that.
issue.
Sure.
Yeah. Other thoughts on this subject as I look at the clock getting closer to 5 o'clock, and the next item is other business and future agenda items, but I think obviously agenda items that bear on this question are ones that we want to consider. So, someone.
Having a rep come from SEDCOR or something?
Pardon me?
How about having a rep or somebody from SEDCOR talk to us?
Sure. I mean, I pulled together information from them, but having, I can get Chad to come to one of our meetings, and he's the closest, he's in Salem.
Okay. If you and Seth think that's, a good and relevant example, I mean, sounds good. Other inputs, regarding future agenda items and topics?
Yeah, you need a little bit better workforce around. We get all these businesses, we have to have people man the station. So, but we got a good resource. We got 5,000-6,000 people graduating from OSU every year. We want to keep them here. You can tap into something like that. I don't know, just thinking out loud. But yeah, workforce is a good thing to consider anyway. If everybody's having a problem.
That's our unfair advantage is OSU.
Can I say one thing about that? I've been listening to I'm kind of lean to your side of thinking. I wonder, when you talk regionally, you really start hitting some agricultural areas versus some more rural, not rural, but urban areas. I would think that it'd be a challenge finding individuals who can relate in all areas. You follow what I'm saying? After only living here just a few years, you know what I mean? And exploring all these different communities. So that would have to be something that would really have to be taken into consideration when you look at individuals who will be manning on the ground
boots on the ground, feet on the ground in all these different areas. So, anything else for the good of the order today before we adjourn? While pointing out, when is our next meeting? It's the second Monday in August, the usual pattern. Or is it the first?
Second, it's the 14th.
August 14th.
Right before the eclipse.
If anybody has any copies,
Pardon me?
if anybody has any copies of anything, could you guys make sure to get them before you leave?
If you got everything that we had in the packet, and then.
You want some handout? Sure.
And Danella, you said you had some business cards.
Yeah,
All
some
right.
business cards.
All right.
You want, would you like one?
All right, well, thank
I
you,
already
everyone.
got this one.
We're adjourned. We'll
Do
see
you have some other ones?
Okay.
Thanks for writing that.
Yeah.
We'll
see you
I'll
next
leave these
tomorrow.
with you.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations.
Probably my new favorite place in the globe. So when we were in Squamish, there was corral there. These are containers, shipping containers for pop-up businesses.
Okay, got it all?
Well, wait, I don't, yeah, I think so.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, you got it. Thank you.
And that's kind of what we're talking about doing, yeah.
Thanks for coming. Enjoy meeting you. That was great.
Made a decision? Well, I think it'd be good. I don't know if I could be totally,
And I didn't,
helpful, but I could give my 2 cents.
So I thought I'd just forward or we just
We've been teaching about it.
Yes.
Yeah, we're trying to do some stuff like I said, do down there.
Great.
You're good on personnel.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it.
No.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Good at what I like to do.
Regional.
Well, right, and that's right.
And like I said, we're looking at right now.
Everything's south of Salem.
But I want you to, you know about what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Girls got houses, you know, get people to live here, you know.
Okay, well, let me
But
think about that and
something back.
is that meeting?
Yep, I'll do it.
Yes, okay, great.
Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Sitting good.
Yeah, take care.
$20,000-$30,000 lots. But Monroe's still at 50 to 60, and their house is all stuck now, and now they got really nice houses in Harrisburg. So it's just something that, I mean, people move there because it's more reasonable to live there, you know, whereas Monroe, like their house is turned down, dumpy, you know. Oh, it's really hot too. Same thing as Harrisburg, right? And they're really expanding.
I gotta run.
You know, because you've got the city team, but yeah, there's lots of opportunities. I mean, like I said, you know, if you wanna get a Microsoft campus in there, you know. They're in, like I said, New York or out, you know. So, it's gonna help for the EDA community. I know people kind of try to be protectionist a little bit, you know, but we're trying to make everybody.
I really like that blue ring.
One single piece of.
My wife picked it up at a powwow.
And then we got one in B Park.
It used to be a bead. It's got a hole
That's
drilled
getting to be
in
a
it.
big thing, it's about the mountain biking up there around. Just like.
Oh, it was drilled, it was a pendant before it became a ring.
Part of South County.
Yeah.
Well, I like it.
That's what I meant.
Lots of stuff going on. Yeah. We're only gonna make it better.
Anyway, but please do join us.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I don't know what, yeah, that'd be fun. At least for a while, we'll try.
I'm Dave, so I just wanted.
Got it?
Yep, okay, good.
Mike,
Don't.
Yeah, I mean, email me if you have questions about ECC names or
Okay,
what's that?
yeah.
Scott Bauer.
Well done.
Yeah.
So Scott works in my division.
Okay.
LB.
Okay.
Yeah.
He used to be a teacher at Philomath there for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, his brother helped build on my stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Scott grew up there.